All right, my guy, it is over. The Atlanta Braves. Now, if I told you this in July, the Atlanta Braves are your World Series champions. I could be wrong. I think I called this in 6 games. I could be wrong. I think I said that
You
last week.
you did.
I did.
You
Okay.
did.
No, I actually that wasn't a joke. I actually wasn't sure. But
No, you did.
dude,
I called it in. I called it in seven.
you going
So
seven? Okay.
they did it a little
Well,
quicker than I thought, but it's okay.
dude, give me like instant reactions. What stood out to you?
Oh man, I mean, it was just. I think number one is just to see Freddie Freeman's reaction to all this was great.
Yeah,
Lifetime Brave.
praise the king.
I know we're gonna get into him, how he's a free agent now, but I don't see him being anywhere else other than the Braves. But
Yeah,
great for him though, because he was in the organization when they had like Jason Hayward, Chipper Jones, even I believe they were on a team together.
yeah,
They might
yeah,
have
yeah,
been.
yeah.
They made the playoffs, I think, in like 2011, 2012, and then they went through the rebuild for I don't know how long. They didn't make the playoffs again, I believe, until 2018. So Freddie
Mm-hmm.
went through the really shitty years, and then he came out, and they've been in the playoffs now for the past four, and they finally got it done. So I think that was great. I
Mm.
mean, the other thing that sticks out for me too is the outfields. We'll talk about how good they actually did when we get into the stats, but like the fact that they reshaped their whole outfield at the trade deadline is just unbelievable to me. So
Yeah,
that was really what I took away from it.
yeah. I guess I just feel too. This is kind of the same thing I felt with the 2019 Nationals, but like as long as you slip in the playoffs, you have as good a shot as anyone. Like
Right.
honestly, they came
No,
in with
I
what
agree.
80, 88 wins or so,
Yeah.
missing Acuna. I mean, missing your best starter, and
Yeah.
yeah, like it doesn't
Peterson.
matter. They knocked off the 105 win Dodgers and everyone else. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like you can't really fault them. They played in probably the most like competitive division in baseball. Maybe not, because I get you can't really say that based off of the wins teams got, because like you guys were all kind of supposed to be like good in the NL
mhm,
East. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so I think everyone, like, if they would have all gotten hot at the same time, like the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies, and everybody, like this would have been a
yeah,
lot closer at the end too. The Mets kind of dropped off, like we know, and then like the Phillies kind of didn't do good against that last series against the Braves. And listen, like there was a point in like early September where I was like, the Braves are not letting up this division, even though the Phillies were kind of close. Sometimes I just thought that Freddie Freeman wasn't going to let that happen. They've been there. We talked about the Astros, been there, done that. Well, the Braves kind of have too the past few years. Not that they've
mm.
been to the World Series, but they've been there. You know what I mean? They've been in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, they're up
So
3-1 last year on the Dodgers. Yeah,
yeah,
so
man. Plus, that was another thing that a lot of people didn't shut up about, how they were up 3-1 now,
oh yeah,
and they almost lost. It's nice to see them kind of shut that down too.
yeah. And I'm just curious, like going like next few years for for teams that are about 500, like like are you just more likely to go all in now? Like, all right, hey, the Braves did this last year, so why can't we? Like, why as long as we just slip in? So something to keep in
I
mind
mean,
for
yeah, I agree. Like, I think there were like several teams that did do that this year too. Like, I think the Phillies made a couple moves. They were right around 500 too.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys even did. You guys got Baez. I don't know what your record was at the time you got Baez, but it must not have been that much higher than
Right.
500.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were the only team other than the Cardinals from like 2011 maybe that won the World Series when they were below 500 at the All-Star break. So that was kind
Yeah.
of that puts into perspective. Like this does not happen very often. So um,
Yeah. No, just
and
get
it
in. That's
was
all you need.
obviously it was a great series, man. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about the Astros a little bit first. I mean, talk about the offense. What'd you see, man? There wasn't much
Um,
good going on.
I mean, so you're looking at like your Don Alvarez did almost nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
but combine him, Bregman, Gurriel, and Maldonado, they batted 176 with no home runs and a 489 OPS. Then
Man.
there's Altuve, batted 222. Now he actually had the only 2 home runs for them the whole series, so give him that. Um, Correa was not great, 624 OPS. Brantley was a little better, 824. But yeah, no, the offense was not really there.
man, like the fact that Altuve hit the only 2 homers for the Astros the entire series just blows my mind.
Mm,
Especially because of number one, because of how good like Alvarez and these guys have been in the playoffs so far this year. And
right.
number two, how good Correa and Bregman and them usually are in the playoffs to begin with. Not even just
Hmm.
this year. Like the fact that Correa didn't go deep in this World Series doesn't even seem like that's correct. Like that doesn't seem
Right.
like a good stat. But it is. I mean, and he didn't do terrible, but like, you would have thought that Correa going into free agency, whether he's going to go back to the Astros or not, he kind of would have lit up the World Series. But
Hmm.
you got to kind of credit the Braves pitching there too. And in the opposite way, the Astros pitching was not very good.
No.
You look at Framber and Luis Garcia, they combined for a 12.49 ERA over 12 with 12 strikeouts over 4 starts. It was 11 total innings. So that was not good at all. It
Framber, I thought was a big
looked,
disappointment. Garcia, I give a little more slack because I'm pretty sure he's
yeah,
a rookie too. Framber, I think they thought he was going to be the ace, essentially. I mean, I guess McCullers technically, but missing him. But
yeah.
yeah, man, did not look good.
I think it was like there were certain things where I was looking at that like his velocity on certain pitches were like higher than usual, but that's not necessarily a good thing for him because like he's a
Mm,
sinker ball pitcher. So like you don't really want that to be fast. Like you kind of want it to be like what you usually are. Like I think he usually is between 91 and like 94. And I
mm.
saw some sinkers that were like 97. Like that's just going to speed up the bat, and then that means the pitch isn't going to move as much. You know what I mean? Because like it's gonna, that's what I was kind of looking at. And
Yeah.
then when Solaire hit that homer on the what is it, the second or third pitch of the World Series in Game 1,
Uh-huh.
I believe that was a sinker that was pretty much right down the middle that barely moved, and he just crushed it. So I think that was part of his issue. Which again, he's a young guy too. Adrenaline could have been a factor. All this stuff. You never know what the deal was with that, but if you look at the guys who had the 2 other starts for the Astros, though, Urquidy and Greinke, they combined for a 1.50 ERA with 10 strikeouts over 2 starts. That was 10 innings pitched.
Yeah.
Greinke looked great. So did Urquidy. They both looked really good.
Hmm.
So, that was kind of like, should they have started Urquidy in Game 6 instead of Garcia? You never know. But I believe
Because
Urquidy was
Garcia
on
was on
regular
short
rest.
rest too, right?
Yeah. Yes. And Urquidy started Game 2, so he would have been on regular rest.
Yeah,
That was
that
kind of
doesn't
a
look good in
strange move.
retrospect. I mean, you can guess all moves. Hindsight's 2020, but still.
Yeah. Good for Greinke though too. I think that was cool because like everybody's kind of been doubting him, or
Yeah.
he hasn't been as good recently. But he kind of shoved. Honestly, I think he pitched 4 innings, no runs at all. So
Got a
that's
couple
good
of
for him.
hits. Game 4, he
Yeah,
got a
dude.
hit. Game 5.
Yeah. So what's crazy is Game 4 he gets a hit right, and he's
Yeah.
pitching. Then he pinch hit in Game 5 and got a hit. So that was just like such a Greinke thing.
Yeah.
Um, this possibly the last time we see pitchers
I was
hit.
just about to
So
say that. Yeah. So, I mean,
that
it's
was
cool, but
awesome. That's a good way for Greinke to ride this out, man. If he doesn't ever get an at bat again, but
yeah.
I mean, if you look at the bullpen though, Houston's bullpen was pretty good. Aside from Javier and Taylor, the bullpen combined for a 1.30 ERA, 33 strikeouts over 27 and a third innings pitched.
Mm,
Javier and Taylor had 3.2 innings pitched, and they allowed 5 runs. I mean, that was just not very good. I think that was kind of Javier led up the 3-run bomb to Soler in Game 6, I believe.
gotcha.
Uh, right? Or was it Garcia? I don't know. Javier led up something in Game 6. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, like they didn't look very good. But like that's
Yeah.
2 out of your 10 bullpen guys that didn't look good. I mean, that should set you up pretty well. But the fact that Framber and Garcia didn't look good, I think that was just the key factor here for their pitching staff.
Yeah. Well, let's shift over to Atlanta now. World Series MVP, Jorge Solaire. 1191 OPS, 3 homers, 6 RBIs. I mean, he had the leadoff homer in Game 1. He had the 3-run homer, the absolute shot in Game 6. That
That
was
thing went out of the
stupid.
stadium, dude. That was nuts.
Yeah.
He
So,
also had that one in Atlanta that was he pinch hit, and I think it
right.
like barely went over the fence. Whoever was in left field at the time, I think it was Alvarez actually, and he almost
Yeah.
made like a sick catch, and like it went over though. He went back to back with Dansby in that one.
Yeah. No, I mean, all of them were huge hits.
Yeah,
So, I
all
mean,
clutch. Like
yeah,
it was
absolutely.
crazy.
So, I mean, wait, what's the word for it? Mid-season acquisitions. That
Yeah, I
game
mean, we.
changer.
Oh my god! And like we talked about Eddie Rosario in like the championship series. I mean, Duvall had a big homer this series too in Game One later on.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, Travis d'Arnaud too. We talked about how he's been in the World Series before. He
Yeah,
performed pretty well again. 292 batting average, 2 homers, 875 OPS.
he's good.
So, man, he's starting to look like he's a pretty good playoff hitter, to be honest with you. Of course, not with the Mets though.
I'm still
um,
kind of happy for him. I always like Travis, so I'm not
yeah,
too bittersweet about that one. But
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you look at Freddie Freeman, man. 318 batting average, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 996 OPS. That's what you expect out of Freddie Freeman in his first World Series.
yeah, he heated up towards the end too. He looked good.
Yep. He looked great. Austin Riley also looked good. He hit 320. He had 3 RBIs. Austin Riley, man, protecting Freddie Freeman also gives Freddie a lot more pitches to hit. I think.
True.
Obviously he broke out during the regular season, but his playoffs were great also. So I think that's going to be, if Freddie stays in Atlanta, I think Freddie
I guess
Riley is going to be a pretty good back to back in the middle of that lineup for a
I
long
feel
time.
like, dude, I feel like this lineup, if they get a full season on this lineup next year, you're looking at like Rosario, Freeman, Riley,
Yeah.
Acuna, assuming he's back healthy, Solaire.
What's interesting is like I believe all the outfielders are free agents, so
Oh, right.
we'll
Okay. So I guess
see
you're not
who
assuming
they.
you're gonna get all of them back, but
I believe they'll probably get at least one. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit and see who we
yeah.
think it'll be. Um, you know, I don't know. It's interesting. Like Jock had a great postseason early on too, kind of slowed down at the end, but
Mm,
you know, I mean everybody, they all just did great. I mean the pitching was though another big factor for the Braves.
hmm.
Ian Anderson, can this guy let up a run in the playoffs or what? Like this guy can't, dude.
Nice.
He had another great outing in Game Three, 5 innings, no hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. If this was a regular season game, there's no way they would have taken him out. That's the thing. He had a
Yeah.
no hitter. Like his pitch count wasn't high. They did it because they needed offense, and I believe they only won that game 2-0. So it did work out. But he did great again. Max Fried, though, I think was the story of Game 6. Obviously, he
He's
had a
good.
kind of down game 2, down game against the Dodgers. But in Game 6, 6 innings, 4 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts. And he had no runs allowed. So he was really good. By the way, there was a play in like the first inning, I think, when he was covering first to like catch the ball from Freddie, and they tossed it to him, and like Tucker, it was no one's fault, but like
Yeah.
Tucker kind of stepped on his
He
fucking
stepped on his,
ankle, and like
yeah. It looked
I
bad.
cannot I cannot believe that he stayed in the game, number one, and number two, that nothing was actually wrong. Because
Yeah.
that could have snapped his leg in half. Like that was really
Can you
crazy.
imagine after they already lost Charlie Morton if he had gone down
Oh
like that?
no.
That would have been
Man, like
ridiculous.
that really, if something like that happened at that moment, that could have changed the entire series. And
Yeah.
but really glad he was all right because that was scary. And then he got out of the inning without letting up any runs. So I
Hmm.
mean, he was fired up. Obviously, I think the adrenaline kind of kicked in too, so he didn't feel the pain as much. But still,
Right.
it was pretty cool to see him go out there and shove after that in the first inning. So
Yeah. And I mean, you're looking at a few of the bullpen guys. Will Smith allowed no runs over 4 games pitched. Tyler Matzik, 169 ERA over 5 innings pitched. Luke Jackson, no runs allowed over 3 2/3. So,
man, I mean, we talked about Luke Jackson kind of looked better in the CS. He looked a little shaky in the division series and the CS for one game.
yeah.
So it was nice to see that. I mean, Tyler Matzik, fantastic. AJ Minter, I believe, did pretty well also.
Mm.
Um, man, the Braves pitching staff was just really good. And without Charlie Morton, they pretty much had, what, 2 or 3 bullpen games in the World Series, I
Yeah,
think.
they did.
Because they had Morton go game 1, then they had Freed, then Anderson, and I think 4 and 5 were both bullpen games. So they had two.
I feel like bullpen
Um,
games really became a story in this playoffs. I feel like
oh,
last year
yeah.
and the year before were definitely not as much.
Yeah, definitely not as much. I mean, I remember like a couple like every once in a while, but like this
Mm.
year there was a lot. I mean, the Braves literally did it back to back in the World Series. So,
Hey, it worked.
um,
Got done.
I mean, I believe in one game too, they had Dylan Lee only pitched like a third of an inning or something, and then Mike
Yeah.
Wright came in. Like, why wouldn't you? I get it, but like you should have just started Wright then, because like he was a starter in the minors anyway, and like he did great. So
Yeah. I
I don't
don't
know.
always understand why they go with what they do in those games, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but hey, man, it worked out, and they won the whole thing. So you can't really question anything they did at this point. But
No.
um,
I mean, get into a few little tidbits. So Trevor Plouffe of John Boy on March 31st this year correctly predicted that the Braves would be the Astros in six. My friend sent me this. I really thought it was a
yeah,
joke because people write that afterwards, or they'll
I
find
know.
ways to like
Yeah,
on March 31st. Got it.
man, that's crazy. Like, I mean, I watched some John Boy Media stuff, so I've kind of known this was a thing for a little while now, and
I had no idea.
then they started pushing it on the Instagram and stuff recently, like this past week, obviously, and then it happened, and so it's pretty crazy. I mean, I've seen like ESPN has posted stuff about it. I mean, it's pretty crazy the fact that he actually guessed this. Because I think honestly, I think the craziest part about it though is that, like in the beginning of the year, like sure, this could have actually made sense, and
Yeah.
he guessed it, and then like halfway through the season, nobody thought the Braves would be even close. So even he was probably like, well, I
Nah, we're
tried, and
done.
then like, and then it actually happened after all of that. So I think that's probably one of the coolest parts about it. Because it really did not look like it was going to happen, man. So that's just kind of, that's a little weird that he guessed it in six too. The
No,
only
go
thing that
play the
would have been
lottery,
weirder,
Trevor. You got it. I
dude. Oh,
mean,
I saw that. If he bet on it, if he bet $1,000 on this in Vegas, he would have won $25.6 million.
oh my gosh.
And he didn't bet on it, obviously, but that would have been crazier. So yeah,
Next year, I'll have to put something down on it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
A few other things. I mean, this first World Series win for Atlanta since '95. Their
yeah.
second since moving to Atlanta. Also, their third base coach, Ron Washington, after 40 years as a player and a coach, finally has a ring.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think like a lot of guys were talking about him, how he's just a great coach, great infield coach. Obviously he was a manager for a while. He managed the Rangers. He brought them to back-to-back World Series, but they didn't win one. So I think that was pretty awesome for him. And hey, look out because he might be a manager come next year. There's some vacancies
Could be.
popping up now. Obviously we'll get into the A's situation in a little while. I think that would make a lot of sense for him to go to Oakland, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was just awesome. You could tell he was just pure joy when the final out was made for him, man. He's been around the game for so long. Like Brian Snitker too. They've both been around for forever. Snitker was a part of the Braves organization for like close to 40 years, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then to get into some of the player stuff, how soon does it take the Braves to re-sign Freddie Freeman, if at all? What do you think?
Like pretty soon. I actually, I'm surprised this is even a question people are talking about. Like, I cannot picture him anywhere else. Like from Atlanta wanting to sign him or him wanting to return from either standpoint. And like, I thought it was weird too in Game 6. Remember he homered and Joe Buck, like as he was rounding the bases, was like in what might be his final at bat as an Atlanta Brave. That was weird timing to me. I don't know. That seemed kind of odd, but I mean, regardless, I think he goes back. I don't think it's a question. What about you?
Yeah, I think it gets done before Thanksgiving. I mean,
Yeah,
I just think that there's no, why would he not come back? Like, why would they not want him? And like everyone's saying, like, oh, well, if they wanted him, they would have like signed him already. He probably had a thing where he was like, I don't want to talk about it during the season. So we'll
right.
talk about it at like once the season started, they probably hadn't gotten it done yet. And he's just like, well, I'm gonna listen to you after the year. I just not now because I want to focus on winning, and like that's what a lot of guys do. So I
Also,
don't
like,
see it as a big of a deal.
right. And this is a team that got both Acuna and Albies on like bargain
Right.
deals. I mean, we talked about that before, how little they're actually making, which is crazy. But the,
Mhm.
the point is now they have more to spend on guys like Freeman, eventually Riley down the road. So I can't
Right.
even see how money would be an issue. Like, yeah, South.
No, I don't either. Especially like again, they don't have a lot of guys on the books for that much right now. Obviously,
Hmm.
Morton's gonna make some money next year, but
Yeah,
yeah, like Freddie's gonna get what he deserves, and I'm almost positive it's gonna be with Atlanta.
yeah,
I mean, I can't picture him in a different uniform, so you know.
absolutely not.
But to kind of move on to somebody from the other side of it, was Game 6 the last time we see Carlos Correa in an Astros uniform?
Yeah, I think so. I
Yep.
think because they lowballed him an offer, like what was it? I think before the season.
I
It was
believe
something
it
like
was. Yeah.
130ish, something really low. And
Yeah.
then if you listen to his comments after game 6, he was like, hey, this has been like the best 7 years of my life. Like
Right.
I started as a boy, now I'm a man. Like just all like this really like emotional talk about his time in Houston. It really sounded like that was the end to me. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like a lot of people want to just box him into staying in Houston because he's like the poster boy for the cheating scandal and stuff. But like, I think he's gonna go somewhere else. I don't think the Astros are gonna give him this blank check and be like, here, write whatever you want and you can stay. Like, I think they want him back, but like, there's gonna be teams out there that are gonna offer way more money than the Astros are, unless all of a sudden they're just like changing their mind and they're gonna offer him like
It
306
could.
million, which is
Yeah.
possible. Maybe they just offered him that deal to just be like, we'll see if he takes it. Obviously, he wasn't gonna take it, but
Right.
I think personally that he's not gonna come back.
Mhm.
But could he be one of those players that goes somewhere for a while, comes back to Houston for like his last year or two? I could see that
Could be.
because I think that everybody in Houston loves him. Everybody outside of Houston doesn't love him. And I think it would be kind of like a storyline for him to go back there his like last year or something. Kind of like what Beltran did. What guys do, you know what I mean? Ken Griffey did the same thing. Not that he's like at that level yet, but I
Right.
still think it would be interesting if he did that.
Yeah.
So do you think we talked about it before, but do you think this is the last series we'll ever see a starting lineup without a DH?
I hope so. I definitely
Yeah,
hope so. This is so overdue at this point.
man.
Um, yeah, and like we talk about, oh, cool, Greinke got a hit. All right, like sure, that's gonna happen one out of every 50 times. Not him
Yeah,
necessarily, but
right. I
it's
definitely
just
agree.
like this is silly, and no other sport has different rules for like the different conferences. I like it just doesn't
No,
make sense to me.
yeah, I think it's the last time. I think who knows? Like you could possibly see like a team DH a pitcher, like that's
I mean,
possible.
Otani, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like you could see like let's say wherever Grinky goes next year, he has like good numbers against a certain pitcher. Like I don't know who he has good numbers against at all, but like you might if you want to just say fuck it and put him at DH. Like why not? He could swing the bat or like
yeah,
Bumgarner or like anyone like that. But you don't want to see like Degrom's a good hitter, but he's also hurt his arm or his elbow when he's hit before. Like you never want to see that. As I love seeing him hit, dude. He's by the way, Jacob Degrom finalist for Silver Slugger for pitcher this year.
absolutely should get it.
I think he was the only Mets hitter that was a finalist for Silver Slugger. So,
Yeah, we don't have to talk about that. That's fine. Yeah,
but anyway, like you never want to see pitchers get hurt hitting. So I think that's the biggest factor here is like you don't want to see that. That's not why they're getting paid. So
yeah. I
I
think
get it.
it's also more of an old school thing to like pitchers hitting. I remember I was watching a random Mets game earlier in the year, and Keith Hernandez. There was a pitcher up at the plate, and Keith was like, "Yeah, savor this now, folks. You're not going to see us again. Enjoy this." I was like, "Savor what?
Yeah,
Like, why do
yeah.
you think this is
Like
cool?"
savor him like striking out on 3 pitches, not even swinging, or what? Like,
Bruh, I don't. Yeah, I don't get it.
so this is also interesting though because let's say the DH is open to the whole league. There's going to be a lot more places for guys like Nelson Cruz, for like DH type players, Albert Pujols to
True.
like sign this year. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes. But
Hmm.
even a guy like Jorge Solaire, who's a good outfielder, but he's kind of like a DH. But to kind of put him in the outfield category for this one, which of the impending free agent outfielders in Atlanta, so that's including Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler, Adam Duvall, and Jock Peterson, which one is most likely to return to Atlanta, do you think?
Hmm.
They could be multiple, but just pick one.
Right. Just based on one, I would say Rosario. And I don't have a real
Yeah,
concrete reason for it. I just got the sense he like really established himself there
yeah.
um throughout the playoffs. So yeah, I'm gonna go Eddie. What about you?
Yeah, so I think that like Rosario again, I think that Freddie Freeman really helped Rosario a lot. I think that was a big reason for his
Mm,
breakout, having a left-handed hitting mentor to talk to and stuff. But man, I think Adam Duvall. I think that he's been on the Braves now a couple times. They
yes,
traded
yeah.
for him a year after he was in the playoffs with them last year. I mean, he didn't make a ton of money last year, but I think he deserves to make a decent amount of money. He obviously fits well in the clubhouse because they've had him 2 or 3 times, however many times they've had him on the Braves. It's like
Yeah.
nuts, but Anthopoulos obviously likes him, and he obviously likes playing for the Braves because he performs well. He's obviously friendly with all the guys on the team. I think he's just the most logical because at this point, Ozuna's not going to be back anytime soon. Let's
No.
face it, he's not going to be back in baseball, maybe ever.
Hopefully
So
not.
Duvall, no, yeah, I agree, absolutely. And so, but as a player standpoint, strictly, Duvall is the most similar to Ozuna, right-handed
Mm,
outfielder. So I
yeah.
think that kind of fits what their mold was supposed to be with Ozuna until he fucked up and everything what terrible happened. But I think that's why, although I wouldn't be surprised if you saw like a 1 year deal for Jorge Solaire, um, just because the DH might be in the whole league, and then you could play him in the outfield sometimes, and you could DH him. So I think that would be kind of interesting for him too.
Yeah.
But again, to look at all of them too, out of all four of them, who do you think makes the most money on their next contract?
I feel like I maybe Solaire. Just because
Yeah.
of how big he
Okay.
showed up in like the biggest moment you could plan.
Right.
Yeah, I think he gets a pretty good payday because it's not like he hasn't done this before. Like in 2019,
No.
I think he had like 48 bombs or something. So he's
I
proven
believe he
himself
led the
before.
American League in homers that year. Yeah.
Right. I think he's
Um,
gonna get a pretty decent payday. I'm not sure if it's with Atlanta, but he will. So
yeah, I think that Soler will get a ton of money, but I think it's going to be Rosario, honestly,
mm,
because Rosario also played very good defensively in the World Series. Obviously,
yeah, he did some big
there were
plays.
there were some of those plays that were kind of fluky where he just made the catch, like the one where he was running back in Atlanta, he kind of just threw his glove up there and caught it. But
He
still,
got
like
there.
he had that great throw to get Gurriel out at second base. I think in game 2 or game 1, whatever
Mm,
it was. So I think that like Soler is a pretty decent fielder. People don't really realize that because he DH'd a lot in Kansas City, but Rosario has a great arm and he has pretty good range out there. So I think that plus he's a left-handed hitter. I think that also helps. But we haven't really talked about Jock much because I think he's a little bit older than these guys. But Jock's going to be
true.
on a playoff team come next October. That's a guarantee, in my opinion. He's
Yeah.
probably going to sign another 1 year deal with somebody and either play with them the whole year and make it to October or get traded like he did this year. You know what I mean? So
No, that's his. That's
it
his
really
mojo. Yeah.
that's just his thing. But who knows? Atlanta might bring back 2 out of 3 of them. You never know.
Yeah.
Could we see an outfield next year of Rosario, Duvall, and Acuna? That's
And yeah.
definitely possible. We'll see. That's enough on the World Series stuff. But congratulations to the Braves.
Yep.
That was a great World Series to watch, and the season's finally over. So we got to talk about some off-season stuff now.
Yeah. So with managers, Padres have officially hired Bob Melvin from the A's. Now, was he still under contract? Like, was he was right?
They allowed him to interview, which
That's
was really dumb on the A's. Like you never
fucking
really
nuts. Yeah.
see A's front office fuck up like that. I don't know why they would let him do that. Like maybe it's a courtesy thing because he's been around for so long. But if he's under contract, who gives a shit about
Or
going
they were
front
just like
office?
tired of him because that seems like a really like odd mistake, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think though I believe that Melvin fits really well in San Diego because of kind of like the clubhouse stuff that we obviously saw happen last year, whether it was Machado, Tatis, or whatever happened. I think he's like the perfect guy to come in there and kind of right the ship.
Yeah.
Um, but do you think that it affects the Padres or the A's more in the long run?
Mm,
Because this is not good for the A's unless again they could get a different manager who's good, but letting Bob Melvin go, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I guess I just have more trust. The A's just come off as more smart to me, because of the whole Moneyball thing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I guess I'll say the Padres only because they really needed someone established in there after everything that happened
yeah,
with Jay Stingler. Um, yeah, I would think San Diego.
yeah. I think so too because I don't think it was all like Tingler's fault, but they just needed a guy with experience rather than a guy like Tingler who was kind of new. And I think like the chemistry will be better. This is the right guy to start to fix everything. What else they have to do, we don't know yet. But
Yeah,
do you think though the A's are going to do the typical A's thing now and start trading away
just trade.
everybody and still somehow be good? Like they're going to trade Olsen? Are they going to trade Chapman?
Oh
Is
yeah,
it
I mean,
not?
they'll still somehow find a way to be good. Yeah, I
Because
could.
I
I don't know
believe
exactly what the
Olson's
money looks like with them, but I could see it happening. It's like,
so I think Olsen and Chapman are free agents after this season. So
oh, okay,
I think so. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not until next season. I think Bassett and Mania are free agents in 2023. So after 2023, I think. So I believe Olsen and Chapman only have one more year. This is like the moment for the A's to do whatever they do and fucking trade them. Honestly, um,
right. And
it
I
could
guess
open a whole thing in the off season.
I just don't know what their window is at this point. Like Houston, let's say even
Right.
Houston loses Correa, I still probably take them to win that division.
And I
And
would
then like you look at the
listen at this
wild
point.
card,
I
I
would
don't
take
see them slipping
Seattle.
in there.
I would take Seattle over the A's at the moment too.
Yeah, you could say
I think
that
the A's
too.
are right now a third place team. If they trade them, I mean, again, they always find a way. So they might trade Olsen and get some guy who we never heard of, and he's going to be amazing at first base. But
Yeah. I I really don't know what to think of that team. They're so odd to me, like whatever
yeah,
direction they're going in. But
I agree. But if you kind of want to stick in the Bay Area, something really significant was announced this morning. Buster Posey has announced his retirement. Um,
damn.
Man, I mean, I don't know how shocked you were, but I was kind of like, what?
I
What?
think
Like,
I knew it was an idea. I because I think he had talked about it a little bit, but still, like I think he's really going out on top. I feel like usually you see guys dip a
right?
little more and then call it, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, after the season he just had.
Didn't he hit like above 300 this year? I think he had like 18
Yeah,
runs or something. Like,
for like an 106 win team. Like the
right.
core is still there. Like yeah, I definitely a
And I
little
think
surprised.
that he's only about 36 years old, or maybe even younger. I don't know how old he actually. I think he's
Yeah.
35 or 36 though.
It feels like he's been around forever, but he's actually not that
Yeah,
old.
he's been around for 12 years though. That's like a decent amount of time. And again, like we we're so shocked. Catchers have a lot of wear and tear. So,
Yeah.
maybe his knees are completely fucked at this point and he can't even catch anymore. It doesn't seem that way though because he has a career 995 fielding percentage behind the plate and he looked great behind the
Wow.
plate this year. But
Yeah.
I mean, listen, man, he hit 302 over his career. He had an 831 OPS, 729 total RBIs, 158 homers. I mean, in the postseason, he's got 5 home runs, 667 OPS. Not great, but that's not the biggest reason why the Giants were winning. It was because of his defense, because of his pitch
Right.
calling, all that. And like, everybody knows Giants won a World Series in 2010, 2012, 2014. Um, and Posey was a big reason why they made the playoffs those seasons, not just playing in the playoffs.
Hmm.
Man, he was the rookie of the year in 2010. He was the batting champion and the MVP in 2012.
Right.
He's a seven-time All Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, one Gold Glove over his 12-year career. First ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I think he should be. And some of his numbers don't really pop out at you, but for a catcher and the fact
Right.
he led them to 3 World Series, yeah, I think so. What about you?
Yeah, I like. I think that I look at it and I'm like, man, that's only 12 years. Like some of his numbers aren't that high, but then it's like he's a catcher, and he
Hmm.
won 3 World Series in a span of 6 years or 4 years,
Yeah.
5 years. Um, I mean, and he was a 7-time All Star. Like I know that those stats are only really like the first half of the season. You never know how his second half went, but like He's a career 302 hitter. Of course, he was a great hitter in the second half too. Rookie of the year, like he won an MVP as a catcher. That doesn't happen a ton. Um, I think he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. I can't believe we're never going to see Buster Posey play again. It's kind of crazy. It's like the end of an era for us because we grew up as Buster Posey winning the Rookie of the
Oh
Year in
yeah.
2010, like just as we were kind of getting into being able to watch baseball like vividly.
Yeah, and that
It's
Giants team on every even year was just pulling it off. Yeah, like that was us growing up. So
yeah,
definitely a little weird. Gonna miss him a little bit. Yeah.
man, just great career though. Really, it's fantastic career. Who knows, man? Maybe one day we'll see him come back as a coach in some form too. We always see a lot of
Yeah.
coaches as managers, so that would be that would make sense. He could. Who knows, man? 5 years from now, maybe he'll be the bench coach behind Kapler. Then maybe he'll become the Giants manager at some point. You never know. So
Yeah, I can see it. Getting to switching gears a little bit. Nick Castellanos has exercised his opt-out clause and he'll be a free agent now. He had 2 years and 34 million left on his contract. So kind of makes sense. I mean, he's definitely more than a 17 million a year player. But I mean, career year last year, 309, 34 homers, 100 RBIs, over 138 games. He was hurt a little bit, but I think he's going to get a big payday.
yeah, man. And I mean, like when you look at his stats from this year, that's only over 138 games. Like, yes, he was
Yeah.
hurt. Imagine he played another 30 games. Like, he probably would have had 120 RBIs. He might have possibly led the league in RBIs.
Yeah.
But I mean, man, he had great numbers with the Reds the first 2 years. Obviously, he had great numbers in Detroit his last few years there. His average over 162 is 278, 25 homers, 89 RBIs, and 814 OPS. Um, that's a pretty solid corner outfielder, if you're going to be honest. And he was also an All Star this year. Man, and he also would have. I don't know how many MVPs we're going to see. He probably got some votes, but
Yeah.
if he would have stayed healthy the whole year, he would have gotten a lot more.
If him and Winker had stayed
Um,
healthy, I mean, it might be a totally different
right.
story, but that's a whole other
Yeah.
conversation.
I mean, I think he's definitely going to get the big bucks. He's 29 years old right now. I believe he'll be 30 when the season starts. So it's going to, I think it's kind of similar to George Springer, maybe, only Castellanos obviously isn't a center fielder. He's not as good at defense as Springer is, but,
Yeah.
could we see maybe 5, 6 year contract, 125 million or something? I could see that for sure.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal for whatever team that gets them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sticking with the Reds, flying through a couple of these, they have traded catcher Tucker Barnhart to the Tigers for a prospect. To Seattle, Yusei Kikuchi has declined his player option and will become a free agent. He slipped off a little bit towards the end of last year.
He had a
Still
great first
career.
half though, so we'll see what happens next year. Like he had a great first half, so I don't know what's more him, the first half or the second half. Obviously, his first 2 years here weren't great either, but
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I thought the most interesting story with the Mariners, though, not picking up Kyle Seager's club option. He is now a free agent. And I believe they told him over text. I'm pretty sure I heard a story
Really,
like they texted him and just like, yeah, we're not keeping you. Which like I'm not even a Mariners
man,
fan. I'm still frustrated at that. Like, what the hell?
uh,
That team's management's awful. I mean,
it is. Man, and like you saw when I think it was the last weekend, the last game, like Seattle was playing for a wild card spot and then they lost. They kind of Seager was kind of like emotional after the game and stuff. Um, you know, I don't know how they didn't want to. Maybe they'll still bring him back, but I don't think so.
he's not that old, right? Like how what I don't
No,
know
I
what the
believe he's only
rationale
like
is.
31, maybe 32, maybe not even. I don't even know. Let's see. He is actually he's 33, but it's still.
Okay. I
Well,
mean,
see, but put it in this perspective though, man. He's 33 and he just set career highs in homers with 35 and RBIs with 101. So, obviously his play didn't decline.
and you're on a team that was what 1 game away from the playoffs. I
Right.
don't
Plus, he's like
okay.
the longest tenured guy. Like everybody else was emotional too. Like Haniger, Crawford, they all like were sad to see him go. Um, I mean, dude, for a third baseman, he averages a 251 batting average, 26 homers, 88 RBIs, and a 763 OPS over 162 during his 11-year career, all with Seattle. So that's all playing in Seattle, which is a huge ballpark.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, if he signs with, like, let's say, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's going to, but let's just say, for argument's sake, that he signed with the Yankees at some point during the rest of his career.
Right.
That short porch in right field would probably make him hit 40 something homers. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's easy. And, like, again, maybe he'll come back, but I also think, though, the option was for 20 million. So, was 20 million maybe a little much to pay him? Sure,
I don't
but
know. For 1 year,
still, and
I
who? Yeah, yeah. But, like,
I would have
who
bet
does
that.
Seattle have on the books though? They're not paying anybody. Who gives a shit? Like,
No, I mean they really just said also Kikuchi might not come back.
yeah.
So
So I don't know, man. I mean, lifelong Mariner. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up, though. I don't know. That's going to be kind of for a guy that's always been in the Pacific Northwest. Kind of like, you always know of him, but he's never really on the highlights. Never on much. Like, if he goes to, like, a bigger market team, he might get looked at a lot more.
yeah. Keeping with club options for the Phillies, they have declined theirs on Andrew McCutchen and Duvall Herrera. They were fine this year. McCutcheon 778 OPS, Herrera 726. They have a big off. The Phillies have a big off season coming up
Yeah.
though.
So, like, Kutch is interesting because, he's, like, obviously known as, like, a great clubhouse guy. So I kind of find it odd that they didn't bring him back, but
Yeah,
maybe he'll come back in a different fashion anyway. Like, if the DH thing is possible, I know he's not as good in the outfield now. So if the DH comes to the National League, maybe they'll sign him as a DH.
hmm
Could be possible. Yeah, Herrera has kind of just been a guy who's bounced around with the Phillies from the minors to the major leagues. He's never really broke out in a big way,
yeah,
so that doesn't really surprise me. He'll obviously fit somewhere though. So
yeah. And then last major one again to not that major, but Jackie Bradley Jr. Has taken his player option with the Brewers for 9.5 million. Was awful to plate this year, a 497 OPS, but he's a Gold Glove finalist for center field. So
yeah, I mean, he played in a lot of games just because of injuries to, like, Kane and Yelich and Garcia.
yeah,
He was kind of like the fourth outfielder, but he did play in, like, I believe almost 40, almost like 140 games or something.
yeah,
But kind of a weird stat. Like you said, his OPS 497. Like, he's only the ninth player in the past 100 years to have at least 400 plate appearances and an OPS below 500.
wow,
So that's terrible. I mean, like, not to, like, kick him when he's down, but that's a really bad offensive season. I mean, man, he's not like a terrible offensive player though. Like, before this season,
he had some good seasons with Boston. Yeah,
like with Boston, he was an all-star once. I believe he almost drove in 100 RBIs once, but, like, his averages over 162 is 243 batting average, 14 bombs, 57 RBIs, and 742 OPS. It's not
I think you
great,
would
but
take that in a heartbeat from
I
him.
mean, yeah, because of his defense, like, you gladly take that. But yeah, I mean, he had 12 defensive runs saved this season, and he had 1,000 fielding percentage, so he never made any errors this season. So as bad as his offense was, he didn't let it affect his defense. So you wonder next year if, I think, the Brewers have a mutual option with Avisail Garcia. You never know what happens
Okay,
with that. If they don't bring him back, JBJ might get to play every day, and then maybe he'll have a better season. I think he's got to have a better season than what he had last year because that's just a track record for him. So,
yeah, no, absolutely.
all right. So, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive now on the free agent shortstop class that's going to be coming. So, obviously, this is something that a lot of people have been talking about the whole season, even last offseason. So, again, we mentioned Correa before. Another guy is going to be Corey Seager. You got Trevor Story, Javier Baez, and Marcus Simeon. Um,
Stacked.
So obviously Baez and Simeon both played second base last season too. So I think they'll probably get signed as shortstops, but you never know. So
Mm.
being they've played shortstop in their career, we're just gonna group all these guys into the shortstop category. Okay. So first of all, these guys are all fantastic players, and Correa and Seager are 27 years old. Story and Baez are 28. Simeon's 31, so he's a little bit older than them.
Yeah,
But what is interesting about this, the average games played per year, Simeon plays the most, 135, averages the most out of
yeah. A
all
lot of
players.
injuries with these guys and missed games.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like the old guy is the guy that plays the most games.
True,
Actually,
true.
this past season alone, Simeon played a full 162, and I believe he did that in
Mm,
2019 as well. So, whenever Simeon gets hurt, it's usually a fluke thing. It's not usually a hammy or something like that.
yeah.
But man, I mean, look at their 162 game averages. Seager leads in batting average at 297. Correa leads in RBIs 105. But Seager also leads in OPS 870. Trevor Story leads in homers with 34. You never know how much of a Colorado effect is there, but that's not his fault. He's played there, so you can't use that as a detriment to him. What's he supposed to
Right.
do? Not hit homers? Like he's got to play there, so he's gonna. Story is also the fastest out of all of them, or like the most base stealer ish out of all of them. He averages 22 stolen bases a year.
I
So
forgot I could do that. Yeah.
yeah, he's a really good base stealer. But the thing with a lot of these guys is that aside from Story and Simeon, most of them have a huge amount of playoff experience, which is key here.
Hmm.
I mean, if you're just looking at playoff experience alone, Correa's played 79 games. The Astros have been in the playoffs
Wow.
pretty much every year he's been around.
Yeah.
Seager the same way. Seager's played in 61 games, and Baez has played in 36. Obviously, Baez was part of those Cub teams.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Correa has career 59 RBIs in the playoffs, 849 OPS. You can't get much better than that. Seager, 36 RBIs, 777 OPS. That's not bad either.
Mm.
And Baez isn't great in the playoffs, only a 635 OPS, but you're going to get great defense from him. He's going to pop some homers every once in a while. So he's won the World Series with the Cubs. Another thing too is like Correa's won the World Series, Seager's won the World Series, and Baez has all won the World Series. So
True. True.
they've been to like that last fucking moment and they've done it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like, but you look at Story's regular season numbers and he's great. Simeon plays the most games. I mean, Correa and Seager have both won Rookie of the Year.
Right.
Um,
Who do you think is the safest of all of them to sign?
uh,
Highest floor, you could say.
I mean, I would say Correa, but he gets hurt too. It's like I want to say Simeon, but he's older, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
But
feel
I
like
don't
all
know
these
though.
guys, as good as they are, have like some sort of like question mark on them.
Yeah, like
I
Seager
don't-
gets hurt a decent amount,
He
although
gets
his
hurt
are
a
usually
lot.
fluke too. Like he got Tommy John surgery. What shortstop needs Tommy John
It's
surgery?
true.
Like that's
It's
the weird
true.
one. I think he hurt his back or something. Like that doesn't happen much.
Yeah.
I think that like Story gets hurt sometimes too, but I feel like he broke his wrist once. Like he got hit by a pitch or something. Like
Yeah.
they do get hurt a lot, but it's not really like most of the injuries aren't like soft tissue stuff. It's like they hurt whatever. It's something stupid. Like I don't know. I mean, like let's talk about Story for a second though. Like when you look at him, do you have him below everybody else because he played in Colorado and he might not be as good leaving Colorado?
Yeah, I do. Because his road numbers are just not as they're just nowhere
Yeah.
close. So
I
what
mean,
about
I
you?
I like his speed though, because that's not going to change in or
That's
out of
true.
Colorado. He's very athletic defensively. I think out of all of them, he's the most athletic defensively. I think Correa though has the best arm defensively, and I think Baez can play a great second base too. I think that
Mm,
he does make some errors sometimes at short though, whether he's like trying to be too flashy or what.
yeah.
So I believe he might just be a second baseman the rest of his career. I don't know.
Could be.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, like these guys have all been all stars a bunch of times. They've all won Silver Sluggers. Even Seager and Baez have both won NLCS MVP um, in separate years. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, let's say like I guess Correa is the guy, but I don't know, just because of his postseason experience, really. I think that I don't. They all get hurt. I don't know what to really look at here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, there's a lot going to it. I mean, we could talk too as far as like where we think each is gonna end up. So I mean, you just mentioned Correa. Where do you think like we'll just fly through him? Like realistically he ends up, and then give me like a outside the box prediction for where he'd go.
So I think we kind of mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we mentioned the Correa stuff, where he's talking about pinstripes. Okay,
Yeah.
and I also just mentioned that Correa has the best arm out of all of them. Correa is also a huge shortstop, like tall wise.
Yeah.
So him and Seager are, but I think that that means Correa is going to move to third base. Does he have to yet? No, but I think he goes to the Mets, 10-year contract, 310 million, and he's going to play third base every day next to Lindor.
310. That's
Hmm.
fat. He wants to join the Puerto Rican mob that we have over there.
Exactly,
Dude,
exactly.
that would be sick.
I think that that's what he was getting at to begin with, because him and Lindor are friends. Like, and like, guess what? Steve Cohen is probably the richest owner in the game, so he's going to pay people.
Yeah.
Again, does Correa want to move to third right now? Maybe not, but like we talked about, when he was on the World Baseball Classic team with Lindor and Baez, guess what the infield was? It was Correa at third, Lindor at short, Baez at second.
Bro, he
So,
wants to play with his boys. And there's only one spot they are, and that's Queens, Queens, New York.
yeah, man. Um, Although, if we're going to go outside the box here, I kind of got a little bit of a weird one. You might not agree here, but
Okay.
I have some reasons as to why.
Okay.
Seattle is up and coming right now. Okay,
Seattle. Hmm.
I think he's going to go to Seattle. 8 years, 280 million. It is outside the box again. Obviously,
Hey.
Seattle's not.
Hmm.
They're not afraid to pay people because they've paid Cano that whatever contract that was, 10 years, 240, I think, whatever it was. If Correa went to Seattle, he would play third base because we just talked about Seager. He's not there anymore.
Yeah.
J.P. Crawford is at short. Abraham Toro, also former Astro, is the second baseman now. And they have Ty France. They have some guys to play first base. But this deal would only make complete sense to me if they re signed Kyle Seager and he's going to play first base. I
Hmm.
think that Seager has declined a little bit defensively at third. I believe last year he only had a 965 fielding percentage. So that could have also been possibly why they didn't re sign him or do the option or whatever. If
Yeah.
they sign him to play first and then they have Correa at short, who's has all this playoff experience, he could really help out guys like Crawford, Toro, Kelnick, all these guys. He could really help out. Um, I know it's in division, so that's very unlikely. But if Seattle wants to really make a push, go for it, man.
No, it'd be
You know
big.
what I
It'd be
mean?
big.
He would be the best player there in a long time, probably since Cano. But Cano went through all the steroid issues or whatever. Like, he would probably be the biggest name there since Ken Griffey Jr. If you're not going to focus on Cano, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, true. I'm gonna go. All right, for realistic, I'll stick with the Mets too. Just like wishful
yeah,
thinking too. Would love to have them. I don't think of it as big as 310. I don't know because I don't know how much they can afford if they're gonna potentially pay Baez. Already paid
right,
Lindor. You got Pete down the road, but yeah, I'll say Mets. Sure.
okay.
Um, for outside the box, Toronto. Yeah, he wants to
Really?
join the Blue Jays. He wants to play third. Yeah, and that infield would just be also like stupid. Yeah. Oh wait, you
Yeah,
know
that
what? Does Vladdy play third? Or does he play first?
but he's been playing first now recently.
Okay, all right. So I'll
He
keep him
played
there.
first
I
in
wasn't even
2020.
thinking of that. Yeah.
Man, imagine an infield with Vladdy, Biggio, Bichette, and then Correa. If Simeon doesn't come back, we don't know what's going to happen with Simeon, but
Yeah.
that would be kind of crazy. Man, oh, I would hate that. Playing him all the time with the Yankees? No, thank you.
No, that offense is stupid enough
No,
already. Yeah.
God.
Go.
Um,
Let's go. Corey Seager. Realistic and then
so,
outside the box.
okay, so realistic is 10 years, 275 to the Yankees. And he's honestly not necessarily my first choice for the Yankees, but if we're talking realistic wise, it makes the most sense right now because he's left-handed, number one. We
Yeah.
don't know if Rizzo is going to come back or not. So right now, our biggest left-handed hitter is Gallo, who is probably due for a bounce-back season next year, but that's regardless. We need a guy who's left-handed. Seager is an average guy too, like we said. He's hit averages to hit 297 a year, so that's really good. The thing with him though is that his defense has gotten really worse almost every single season, And you kind of saw it in the playoffs this year. He was not very good at D.
Hmm.
So I think that if we signed him, he would eventually be moving to third base, not right away, but maybe in like 2 or 3 years, I believe he'd be moving to third. But I think it makes the most sense for us too, because at that point, Urshela would probably be a free agent. We may or may not bring him back. But then we have a couple of shortstop prospects who are supposed to be really good. I think Volpe is one of them who may be ready to go in 2 or 3 years. So that would probably move Seager to third and then have Volpe at shortstop every day. Um, I think that I like Seager's bat a lot, but he does get hurt. Like we said, I know a lot of them are fluky injuries, and the Yankees.
Yeah.
That's the last fucking thing we need is more guys that get hurt all the time. But I think that would be a fair deal for him because of the injuries and because of the decline. I think that he would get a little bit less money than some other guys. Like defensively, he's not as good. Um, but if I'm thinking outside the box, I think he's going to go to Texas.
To
Uh,
Texas.
yes, Texas has some money to spend. They have some guys coming off the books this year. I think 10 years, 300 million to Texas. They haven't been good in a while, and I think that they're gonna have some. They're gonna probably try to sign some pitchers, Kershaw included, because he grew up like 10 minutes away from Arlington, where the
Yeah.
stadium is. So, well, that would be something to see Seager and Kershaw in fucking red, white, and
I
blue. But
That'd be crazy.
but I think they have Connor Falefa right now, who's usually the everyday shortstop, but they could just put him at third because he played
Oh,
third
I think
last
they'd
year
have
for
no
Tampa Bay.
issue moving Isaiah kind of play for
Because
Corsi.
he's been good, but then if you have a left side of the infield with Connor Falefa and Seager, that's pretty solid defensively.
Yeah.
Plus, offensively, it's great too. I think the Rangers are going to try to do some stuff, man. They have money now, so I think they have like the new stadium. They have all this stuff. They want to be good, and I think that would make sense because that stadium we've seen left-handed hitters in the playoffs last year rip some homers there, Seager included, because he was the World
Yeah.
Series MVP. So I think he would fit really well there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say realistic. It's hard for me to picture him away from the Dodgers. I know they have like a lot of guys to pay, and maybe Turner's the guy they end up going with over and letting Seager walk. I
Right.
think he stays in LA. It's hard for me to picture him otherwise. Outside the box, I'll give you a weird one. The Giants. He doesn't care about rivalries, jumping ship. He goes to San Francisco and they keep the division. Like, just because of
Man. So can you imagine an infield? Let's say I think Belt is a free agent. Possibly move Longoria to first and then put Seager at third, maybe.
yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know if he can play
Wow.
third. That was a really just kind of a shot in the dark, but
That
yeah.
I mean, the Giants are not afraid of doing that. Like they just got Alex Wood from the Dodgers. They're not afraid to get guys from the rivals. So
I feel like that's less of a thing than yeah. But I feel like in the past it's like how could you ever, and now it's like I don't know. Free agency is different. Guys just kind of want to
yeah,
play like wherever with their friends. It's like not as big a deal anymore. So
yeah. No, I
you
agree.
know, doubt it
Yeah,
happens, but there you go.
you
Next,
never know.
next guy is Trevor Story.
Okay, well, this one's kind of gonna shit on the Angels front office a little bit, but fuck it. He's going to the Angels. 10 years, 300 million, and they're still not going to get any pitching, and they're still going to suck. But they're
That
going to
just
have
seems so on
Rendon,
brand for them. And
Story.
then sorry to any Angels fan. I just feel like those big like batter
Yeah.
signings, but like no pitchers. No, yeah,
They're going to have this is going to be their lineup starting next year. Trevor Story leading off, Anthony Rendon hitting second, Mike Trout hitting third, and Otani hitting fourth.
God,
And they're not going to make the playoffs. That's my
sad.
realistic one.
You rip.
Because I just think it makes too much sense to have like a big right-handed bat. Like they just got Rendon and they didn't get Garrett Cole. Like why? You need pitching, dude. You don't have any pitching, but you know what? Whatever. But outside the box here, you were just talking about guys going to play with their friends and stuff.
Yeah.
I think Story could easily go to the Cardinals and join Nolan Arenado.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I could actually definitely picture that,
Yeah.
honestly.
So I could see 8 years, 285 with St. Louis because there's a few reasons for this. Paul DeYoung kind of had a shitty year. So come playoff time, I believe Edmundo Sosa played in the wild card game, not DeYoung. Not that
Hmm.
Sosa's necessarily bad, but we don't know yet. He's very young. I believe he's a rookie. So if you all of a sudden go with Goldschmidt, Edman, Story, and Arenado in that infield in St. Louis, plus the outfield that broke out this year, they might be knocking the door on the Brewers for the division. I think that Story's numbers are obviously going to go down a little bit, just like Arenado's did a little bit, but Arenado's actually didn't go down as much as I thought they would.
Hmm.
He had a pretty solid season, so I think Story would still be pretty good. And the Cardinals' speed and defense is like a big thing there. And I think
Yeah.
Story fits that perfectly, whether it's Story, Bader, all those types of guys, Yachty. I mean, defense with that. Goldschmidt's great defensively. Arenado. I mean, the list goes on and on. Story just seems like a Cardinal to me, and having Arenado there, I think makes even more sense. So we'll see, but I think the Angels are going to push with a little bit more money, and the Angels are just going to get him. So I don't know.
I could see it.
Yeah.
For realistic, I'll actually go Cardinals. I could see that
Really?
happening.
Okay.
Like it's like you're saying they value speed and defense, and playing with Arenado. For outside, maybe like the Cubs. I don't know. I don't know why the Cubs would do that. Just like, but hey, like maybe they just want to make a random big move. And you play short for
I
them.
mean,
So
Chicago, it's a big market. I mean, you never know.
yeah, there you go. Well, speaking of former Chicago guys, Javier Baez, where does he go?
The Mets are opening up the checkbook. They're getting Baez
Let's
to
go.
8 years, 240 with the Mets. He's going to play second base, obviously. Man, that infield is about to be stacked. They're going to have Alonso, Baez, Lindor, and Correa.
Let's just get like
He's
none
gonna
of
have a
them.
lot of
Both
money.
of them just walk.
Yeah, I
They're
know. Yeah. Oh man. I think that would be amazing though. But
yeah.
outside the box, I'm gonna go with Javi going to the White Sox,
Okay.
crosstown rival from the Cubs.
Okay.
He's obviously familiar with Chicago. He's gonna go there 7 years, 225 million. For now, he's gonna play second base because that's literally the White Sox only open position, I think, at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Plus, Tim Anderson is a free agent after the season. So let's say for some reason Anderson walks, you just move Baez to short if you want to, or you keep him at second and you sign
Mm.
somebody else. I don't see how that would really be an issue. Plus, the amount of swag that Anderson has mixed with Baez, I mean,
Yeah. A
that
lot
up
of
the middle of the
personality in there.
crease.
Yeah.
Plus, you got like Eloy, Luis Robert. I mean, they got some guys, Abreu over there, Grandal. Like, they got some energetic like guys with attitudes and stuff, and like I think that would fit perfectly there.
Oh yeah. No, he would
Plus,
definitely be a personality fit. Yeah.
Baez has all the playoff experience. We've seen the White Sox make the playoffs now back to back years and losing the first round. To
Mm-hmm.
have a guy with the experience there, I think would help a lot. Even though like Abreu's been around for a while, but he hasn't been in the playoffs much. All these guys, like even pitchers,
Yeah.
Giolito, Lance Lynn, even obviously he has the experience, but I think that like the way that the young players have gotten along with LaRussa, Baez would fit that mold perfectly because you don't have to be afraid that like Baez and LaRussa will clash because LaRussa got along great with Anderson, got along great with the
Oh
Brewers,
yeah. I
all
mean, at
those
this point, it's gonna
guys.
go on with anyone. Yeah.
So I think that that would be a under the radar type move. That would be a little weird whenever he would go back to Wrigley though, but still, I think that
Yeah.
would be a
Yeah.
cool
True.
move. Yeah.
Um. Yeah. For realistic, I feel like I'm biased. I'm just gonna say Mets. I just really want that to happen. But to be honest, though, like I think he would want to play with Frankie. So I don't think that's really.
I do.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The Correa one feels more outside the box to me, but Baez I could definitely see. Um, Outside the box, maybe like the Phillies. The Phillies just randomly sign. I mean, I'd be so
Yeah.
pissed intra division, but they want a big star to go along with Harper. So
Yeah. I mean, that would definitely fit. Obviously, like, is Segura a free agent? I believe he might be, or
he
I
might
don't
be.
know.
Yeah,
I know that, like, but they may end up trading Didi or Segura to make room for Baez. I think that would honestly
that's
make a
true.
lot of
Yeah, I
sense.
do. I guess I just view those guys as more like short term
Yeah,
fits anyway.
I
So
agree. I think Segura would probably be the guy to move because Didi has great postseason numbers, great personality. Him and
yeah,
Harper obviously get along great too. So, man, an infield with Didi and Baez plus Harper in right field, that would honestly change some things over there. That might be a good
Yeah.
pick.
I don't know if it'd be enough in the division, but who knows?
Yeah.
And then our last guy is Mr. Marcus Simeon.
So Marcus Simeon, like we said, is a little bit older, so he's not going to make the same money as them. Let's face it. Like he deserves big contract, but I don't think he's going to get as much. So to me, though, I think he fits so well in Toronto. I think he's going to go back to Toronto. I believe that Springer's contract was what 6 years, 150 or something like
Yeah.
that. So I think Simeon is going to get the exact same thing, plus two club options for his age 38 and 39 season, depending on how the wear and tear goes. Obviously, he's probably going to play second base over there, but I wouldn't necessarily shoehorn him into second base because Bichette had a terrible defensive season. So
Hmm.
could you honestly maybe be better off putting Bichette at second and Simeon at short? I don't know, like
Sort of worth a
possibly.
thought. Yeah.
Because Bichette's such a great bat, you're never going to have him out of the lineup, but he really was not good at defense whatsoever. So
Yeah, that surprised me. Yeah.
I know. I mean, he could improve though. Like we've seen Tatis improve, we've seen a lot of
Yeah. He's
shortstops
young.
improve, so he'll probably be fine. But
Yeah.
I think Simeon was such a great mentor for like Bichette for the entire infield, really. And if you go into next year as Toronto and you don't have Simeon, I don't know, man. I don't look at them the same way.
Yeah.
Like him and Springer were such key parts of the team, and Springer got hurt a lot, but like still, their veteran presence was so big for that team. If they don't have a guy like Simeon, I don't know how they really do good next year. Honestly,
I
their
still
offense
can't
must be
believe they
another
ain't
level.
getting this year. I mean, that's a whole other
Yeah,
thing. I look at that team. There's like no way they didn't. But like,
yeah,
yeah, I agree. I think they're very different. They're a different team without them.
yeah. But outside the box, now again, some things are happening with the Reds that I'm not really happy about. Whether it's Barnhart leaving, Castellanos opting out, but
Right.
I think Marcus Simeon would honestly fit pretty well in Cincinnati.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think he would go there 4 years, 90 million, fifth-year player option. Um, so obviously that's a little bit less money than what he would be getting with a different team, but I think being Castellanos is potentially coming off the books. Now they may rework a new contract. You never know, but
Yeah.
he's coming off the books. Barnhart's money is coming off too. I think Simeon would fit great at shortstop there. Then you could have Suarez, Mustakis kind of platoon at third. Simeon. Then you'd have India at second and Votto at first. Obviously, Mustakis could play some second as well. So I think that would be really well. Obviously, the Reds have been looking for a shortstop for forever, and instead of going big, like they're not a big market, so they're not going to go for Baez, Story, Correa, or Seager because they're going to be asking for too much money. They could get Simeon on a little bit of a cheaper deal, and he might end up playing more games. So I think that would honestly make sense for the Reds. They never really do what makes sense, though, unfortunately. So I don't know.
No, they have trouble with that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um. Yeah. I mean, this is an easy way for the realistic. I think Toronto. It definitely staying there. Because I
yeah,
also feel like they're probably willing to pay the most, but that's yeah. And
yeah.
then outside the box, maybe Seattle. Maybe Seattle just kind of sends it. And like, I mean, they're a couple wins away last year. Do they have like a established second baseman right now? I'm just
Again,
completely forgetting something.
they have Abraham Toro who can play third and second. He played second after the trade last year. He's still really young, so like
Okay.
he's gonna play one of the positions. So if they got Simeon, Toro would probably go to third. Um, I mean, he's going to be a good player. He just is young, so he hasn't played much yet.
All right.
But I
All
think that
right.
would make
Well,
sense. I mean, again, like a veteran like Simeon, though, he's been to the playoffs a few times too with Oakland. So he has some experience there. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
If they signed Simeon and then re-signed Seager, I feel like I'd be excited about that team. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in that front office. So
It's too much to ask for, man. They don't
no,
have an
it's
easy
too
life
way
out
too
here.
much. No, yeah. And that's about it for us. I mean, give us a stat of the week. We'll sign off.
All right, well, stat of the week. Going to go back to the World Series for a second. Jock Peterson. Obviously, he won the World Series last
No.
year with the Dodgers and this year with the Braves. He's only the ninth player in MLB history to win a World Series in back-to-back seasons with two different teams. So that's pretty cool of
Hmm.
Jock. And who knows, man? Like I said, he's going to obviously be on a playoff team next year. It could happen 3 years in a row.
I'm
You
trying to
never
think
know.
of other examples when this has happened. I like there's probably definitely been some in the last few years, but I don't even remember.
Yeah, there's had to have been some. I can't even think. It's rare though, for sure.
Yeah.
All
we'll
right,
come back with that. I'll think about it.
Ben Zobrist. He's the most recent one.
Oh, yeah, yeah, Ben
He
Zobrist.
was
Right.
he was Royals then the Cubs. Yeah,
Yeah, he played a big role in that too. Yeah.
for both teams he played huge. Well, man, with the Royals he was an awesome trade that year, and then with the Cubs he had that big hit in Game 7 in Cleveland, right?
Yeah,
I believe
yeah.
he had it
So
like after the rain delay he had a hit or something. So yeah,
yeah, we'll see if Jack goes 3 for 3 next year. Maybe he pulls.
I'm
Has that ever
Peterson's gonna.
happened? I
I
would think.
doubt it.
Yeah,
I
that
doubt
seems
it.
unlikely. Yeah.
But if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be Jock Peterson.
Hey, it's got to be a
He's
first
gonna
for
win it every
everything.
year. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that wraps up for us. Congrats to the Atlanta Braves. They win.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, we'll be doing stuff in the off season too, kind of previewing
Yeah.
things, free agent wise. Probably be some CBA stuff to talk about. Unfortunately, I'm assuming.
Man,
So
I'm hoping that we don't get any delays to the season, but
no, sure, hope not.
we'll be on that, so we'll be keeping everybody updated. Hopefully
Yeah.
that's not the case though.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, see you guys.